That gave me goosebumps the first time I heard it, and obviously that is just the isolated guitar part with a little bass underneath of Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. I was inspired by these new guitar pedals PRS Guitars have made. They're gonna be the inspiration for the riffs that made me want to play guitar. I remember when I heard Black Hole Sun, I had just been getting into Spoonman. That was my first Soundgarden experience, and then Black Hole Sun was just this completely different sound than I had ever heard, mainly due to that really cool rotary sound. I kind of got the sound with this flanger. This flanger is actually two flangers stacked on top of each other, and you can dial in how much you want of the left side or the right side. For example, if I push it all the way over to the right like this, you're getting that fluttery sound that I have dialed in, but I also have another flanger that's moving very slowly. So when you combine those two sounds, and I just think that is such a cool feature to have two flangers, because really a lot of people maybe don't have a use for a flanger, and I don't often have a flanger on my board, but now I have two flangers. So join me as we move forward exploring more riffs that made me just be like, whoa, what is this? I gotta play the guitar. I gotta learn that thing. I remember the first time I heard this song, I was like, oh, the groove, as I do a lot with John Mayer licks. And I'm joining just a Fender amp with a compressor, the Mary Cries here, and I'm basically fully compressing with just a little tiny bit of a boost. So that compressor we have, and with the compressor. That is just a really nice sound. The compressor is an effect that you should never really know if it's on if you're in the audience, but the guitar player, it just makes everything easier for us. Like it just sustains notes a little bit more, it gives us a little bit more of attack, and everything's just a little bit easier to play. Not so easy that you know, it's doing work for you necessarily, but it's just that little 5% or 10% extra ease of tone, if you will, to get out of the guitar that really allows you to snap these strings. And as you can see, when the compression is happening, that little LED light is letting you know that compression is indeed happening. And I'll get to another use of this compressor in particular a little bit later, but for now let's move on to another riff that made me love the guitar. After I heard Cliffs of Dover for the first time on Avia Music.com, Eric Johnson's album, I went searching for his entire music catalog and I found Manhattan. It was funny because instrumental song names, they are always just nonsense because there's no lyrics, so really you can name a song anything instrumentally. So instrumental song names were always funny to me, but this one named Manhattan, even though there are no vocals, it sounds like Manhattan. It sounds like this elegant, awesome night city. Maybe the coolest sounding thing that I can't really do that well, it's these harp harmonics, but you know, for this particular position, they're not actually that difficult. We just have a middle finger on the 7th fret of the E string, bar on the 6th fret, and then we have the ring finger on the 7th fret of the B string. There's a bar on that 6th fret E string. So you can get that kind of ethereal sound by hitting 12 frets above the fretted note and plucking it with your thumb. So it's basically like if our thumb was right here and the pick is now our thumb. So as we move up here, the 6th fret, you can hear, and of course you'll adjust right here to the fret below because we're on the 6th fret, remember, for these next subsequent notes. So that is the motion there, and you just kind of get it up to speed. A good compressor really helps with this song because, again, just making the notes a little bit easier to play, and some of the chord voicings obviously will be very difficult to sound out if you don't have a nice healthy signal, and that's what the compressor does for a guitar player. Let's move on to another riff, shall we? Achilles' Last Stand is probably my favorite Led Zeppelin song, and it's probably my favorite Led Zeppelin riff. Little did you know. Really simple riff too, but it is tricky with that little bang to get these notes to sound out correctly. And I was always practicing this. And well, that is basically the whole riff, but the flanger sound, and by the way, this is a Marshall amp, but I used a little horse meat. It's just real meaty, and then I got one side of the Wind Through the Trees flanger. Yeah. And that same exact kind of sound reminded me of another riff, a Tom Morello riff. An underrated Rage song. It came out when The Matrix 2 came out, so maybe people didn't like The Matrix 2 as much as the original one. Maybe this song got held down because of that, but this is one of my favorite songs. I used to blast it every day coming into high school at like 7:20 in the morning, blasting this song. It's just such an awesome riff. So as you can hear, these different guitar effects, they have the sound that you're looking for as far as like horse meat does a great distortion, but it also cleans up really nicely and enhances front of amps. The Wind Through the Trees is just a knock it out of the park home run modulation pedal. I love the double flanger situation there. The Mary Cries LA2A kind of compressor thing. I don't really use compressors too often, but when I do, I use them for specific tones, and this one helps me get the specific compressed tones that I'm going for, and that inspired me to make this video. And the last thing I want to mention about these guitar pedals is actually the way I like to use the Mary Cries in tandem with the horse meat. I really only like using the horse meat on a lower gain side of things, but the Mary Cries almost turns into like a boost pedal. If you turn up the actual output and turn down the compression, it turns into a boost pedal, and it almost becomes this fuzz pedal that maybe the next PRS pedal they release will be a fuzz, and it'll be some sort of combination of the horse meat and the Mary Cries boosted stage. So here's my amp sound, the nice Bogner Shiva. And we have the horse meat just adding a little bit. As you can see, that gain really goes a long way. But here is the X factor, baby. Turn down the compression, but turn up that gain. sounds like this on one of my favorite guitar solos of all time. So there you have it, a bunch of guitar riffs that made me want to pick up the guitar and play it for whatever reason, whether it was the effect or the riff itself. I hope you find some inspiration either from this video or something else you do today. And until next time, keep shredding.